Welcome to another episode of Revolution Recap, coming to you after the New England Revolution managed a 2-1 win at last place Sporting Kansas City. The Revs had a halftime lead through Gustavo Bou off a great assist from Dylan Borrero, and then gained a man advantage early in the second half through a Uri Rosell red card. But Johnny Russell equalized for Kansas City on a 52nd minute free kick. Fortunately for the Revs, Bou and Boateng salvaged all 3 points, bundling home a rebound from a Gustavo Bou shot in the 87th minute. So a good 2-1 victory for the Revolution, and what maybe wasn't the best performance given who they were playing and the fact that a man advantage for just about 45 minutes. But I'm Sean Donahue. Joining me today is Kris Valukis. Kris, how's it going?
I think I'd be doing a little bit better if there was a number 9 on the Revs tonight. I'm a little bit, it's a little bittersweet for me. It was a good move for the Revs, but overall, I can't really complain. Revs got 3 points away from home. And that's exceeding expectations, I think, when you look at what you need, right? You want three points at home, 1 on the road, and you get 3 on the road. That's always a good thing. A win is a win, as they say. And, you can only play the team you're up against. I know we'll get into it, but I know, Kansas City was down a man and definitely had a lot of players missing due to injury or international duty. But the Revs still took care of business and got the win. So overall, I'm doing good. Good.
I agree with you, but it's worth for context pointing out that Kansas City missing 2 of their designated players, I think, for the rest of the season, right? Is that what they said? Yeah. That's a huge blow to Kansas City, and huge. Just in general have not been good this year. Last place in the Western Conference, and then of course the red card in the 48th minute. So 3 points is 3 points, and 3 points on the road is obviously the key importance here is that the Revs got all 3 points, but maybe not as dominating a performance as you would expect, given the Revolution had the lead at halftime, went up a man, and then needed an 87th minute goal from Bou and Boateng to actually get all 3 points. But we'll get more into it. I want to get right into our key takeaways, which today are brought to you by our friends at The Rebellion. Make sure you check them out at Any Rebellion on Twitter and on their website anyrebellion.org. Kris, I think there were a lot of things you could take away from this one, but what was your key takeaway? And as you kind of alluded to, the first game without Adam Buksa, who was transferred over to RC Lens officially this week.
Yeah, you said it. There's so many different things that we could take away. What I'm kind of going with is just this team is still looking to put it all together. They're still looking for their identity. They grinded out this win. They had a very good, very promising attack. It's nice to see what the attack's possibly going to be looking like going forward. I know that there's been some talk about another Adam Buksa style number 9 possibly coming in. That's all hearsay. So until we actually hear anything a little bit more concrete, I'm going to assume that no one else is coming in, and this is what we should expect. Much like was it 2 weeks ago before the international break, the Revs looked very promising in attack and really seemed to be able to press Kansas City for a lot of the game, even when it was 11v11. The first 10 minutes, throw that out because that was really a rough 10 minutes, especially with that turnover by Captoom and that Bou yellow card. But overall, I mean, you can see that the pieces are there and they're really putting it together. The problem is that they're just not getting the actual end product. So it feels like a puzzle that's missing 1 or 2 pieces, or maybe that has a couple of pieces misplaced. Maybe they're playing the wrong formation. They keep trying out different things. Dylan Borrero looks fantastic. Matt Polster back really helped out the Revolution. Carles Gil and Gustavo Bou continue to link up very well off each other, but what's this team going to look like going forward? How's Sebastian Lletget going to be fitting in, especially with the addition of Dylan Borrero? How are they going to play together? What's the Josie situation going to look like? So there's still a lot of questions for what this looks like as far as like the attack goes. The pieces are there. It's just a matter of how they're going to put it together and what additions are they going to get. Are they going to go get some other new pieces? I'm not sure. It's nice to see. It's promising to see, especially coming away with 3 points. And this team is still being able to grind out wins while trying to figure it out. But yeah, my takeaway is you can see that they're still trying to figure it out. They're trying new things, different things. And then now with the loss of Adam Buksa and eventually the loss of Matt Turner, it's going to really change the dynamics of this team significantly. So it's hard to get rid of your goalkeeper and your striker at the same time and keep any sense of form mid-season. So I think overall we should be happy with the way that the Revs have been playing, considering that they don't have those players right now. But they need to get the final pieces put together.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there are a lot of question marks here and how this is going to look. And I want to jump into the lineup quickly since it kind of ties to what you were saying. I think a lot of eyebrows were raised when they saw who the Revolution put out as their starting lineup in this one. Sebastian Lletget. I didn't know he was injured. Twellman said he should be back Wednesday. That was, a guy that wasn't on the injury report and just not part of the 18, which I guess we should be, or not 18 anymore. What is it, 21 or whatever it is, or 20 rather. I guess not something we should be surprised by anymore because I think all season there's been guys that just disappear and we don't hear about until the game day. But that was a surprise. And then McNamara, at least listed as kind of a attacking winger in this formation. I thought he had kind of a weird role that was maybe too free in his ability to roam. But overall, it was an unusual lineup. Captoon got the start, Polster in midfield, Carles Heel, McNamara, Dylan Borrero out wide. Gustavo Bou is kind of the lone striker-ish. And then the typical defense, except with Gonzalez over Kessler, because Kessler was still hurt. Were you surprised by that lineup? And, to me, I agree with you that there's still a lot of question marks because I don't think the lineup that we saw today is the Revs' best 11 by any stretch.
My only real surprise was the fact that there was no Sebastian Lletget. I didn't expect Tommy McNamara to be playing. Or if he did, I guess it would be either McNamara or Captoon. One of those two would not be in there. And I think they both had poor performances overall tonight. But yeah, I guess the big surprise was just it was more the Lletget thing, right? We still have a lot of question marks as to what else is going on. We don't know really when Henrik Kessler is going to be back. But no, I mean, I guess not super surprised, I guess, right? This is kind of close to what the best 11 is going to be. Petrovic is supposedly going to be the number one keeper, and he looks pretty solid. Bou right now is our number one striker. I guess the only other thing is Josie Altidore, as I mentioned before. How is he going to fit in? Is he ever going to be 90 minutes match fit? Maybe was it because of the temperatures in Kansas City tonight? Maybe is it because they're only going to be on 3 days rest before going to play Orlando? There's a lot of question marks as to why Josie didn't get the start. I'm guessing it's just because he's still not match fit and probably won't be for a little while. But no big question marks. Just what's going on with Sebastian Lletget.
Yeah, I agree with your point about Captoon and McNamara not having the best games. It's funny to look at the stats after the game that Captoon passed at 91.4% passing accuracy, and I'm sure that was benefited by playing a chunk of that game up a man. But there was a couple of very notable bad passes from him, including the one that you mentioned where I think Gustavo Bou got a yellow card, or rather on then, and then the one where Matt Polster got a yellow card where Captoon had a bad pass. I thought he had a bad performance. I thought McNamara had a bad performance. McNamara only passed at 63.6%, which is pretty terrible in a game where you're up a man for a good chunk. He did have one shot on target, a decent shot, but overall I thought he had a bad game. So those two guys, I think certainly a lot could be improved upon. But yeah, the lineup surprised me a little bit when I saw it out there, in part because of Lletget, and then in part because McNamara was playing on the wing. I feel like if you're going to play that formation, I'd rather see Boateng starting as kind of the attacking guy over McNamara if Lletget's not available. But and of course Boateng did come on and scored the game winner, and he's good off the bench. But I would have liked to have seen him start over McNamara if this was how they're going to play, or over Captoon and have McNamara drop back into the midfield. It was just kind of a weird lineup. And of course, Omar Gonzalez getting another start with how poor he's been. Although I don't have much to blame him on in this game. But a lot of his mistakes usually happen in the second half, and he didn't really get to play much in the second half. So maybe that was a reprieve for him. But yeah, I think there's still a lot of question marks with this team and with this attack and how it's going to play out now that Adam Buksa is officially gone.
Yeah, and by the way, if Bruce wants to swap Omar for Bell at the 55-minute mark, and it's going to look like this every single week, I'm fine with that, because Gonzalez looked fine for the first 55 minutes until he got hurt, and Bell looked pretty good overall when he came in. So not a whole lot of complaints on the back line in general tonight. I mean, there wasn't a whole lot of pressure, I guess, especially in the second half. But yeah, that's Omar looked a lot better. He didn't look like what we have come to know him as.
I agree in the context of this game, but I still don't have trust in either of those two players at this point.
I'm trying to spin this.
In the context of this game, I don't have much to complain about from either of them, but I don't want to see either of them playing consistently. I want Henry Kessler back for this Revolution team.
I do too. Yes.
And I don't think this team can go very far if they don't have a healthy Henry Kessler, or sign somebody else that can play that spot, despite the fact that they got away with it today.
Right.
But my takeaway goes back to a player that you already mentioned that had a good game, was Dylan Borrero. And we've heard a lot of talk that Dylan Borrero is going to be Tajon Buchanan for the Revolution, or he's going to become that player. And from a distance, he kind of looks like him. You can confuse the two of them if you're looking from a distance.
Good, yeah.
And we've seen some of his dribbling skills. We've seen some areas that I think he still needs to get better on. I think in the final third, his touches let him down a few times. When he's had an opportunity to finish, his shot has let him down a few times. But what struck me in this game, and what my takeaway is that Dylan Borrero offers something that Tajon Buchanan didn't. And that's kind of these passes that we've seen him, such as the pass on Gustavo Bou, where he played kind of a long, perfectly weighted pass over the top that led to Gustavo Bou's goal. I don't think that's something that Tajon Buchanan has in his repertoire. And we also seen him a couple times have some great crossfield passes, and none of those are really strong points of Tajon Buchanan. So, Dylan Borrero is not as good as Tajon Buchanan yet. Let's not confuse anything. He's not as good as Tajon Buchanan, but that aspect of his game is something that Tajon Buchanan didn't have. And I think that aspect of his game is going to prove really vital with Adam Buksa gone, because when you have a guy like Gustavo Bou, it's less about sending crosses into the box and more about kind of these passes over the top and picking out good runs on the ground, or over the top instead of from the wings. And Dylan Borrero offers that, so that was something that I think was very exciting to see from him, and something that's going to serve the Revs very well going forward. But that was really my key takeaway, is that Dylan Borrero looks to be a great signing for the Revs. I think he's still got a ways to go. Bruce Arena mentioned he's still developing, and I think he's got a lot more to offer the Revs than what we've seen so far. But the early signs are really, really good, and this looks like it's a great signing for the Revolution, that he's going to be a guy that's going to contribute a lot to the Revs' attack, and they needed that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And you also mentioned that there's the comparison between Borrero and between him and Buchanan. And obviously you can see a lot of the play style is there. But if your expectations are that Dylan Borrero is going to be exactly what Tajon Buchanan was when he departed New England, it's just not feasible, right? If that was the case, Dylan Borrero would not be signing for the New England Revolution. He'd be signing somewhere else in Europe right now. He's a bit of a project, if you want to say, a developmental piece. He has a lot of raw talent, and he comes to the Revolution a lot like Tajon came to the Revolution, where he had the raw talent. A lot like DeJuan Jones, Brandon Bye, and many others came to the Revolution. They came with this raw talent. You want to say Matt Turner too, throw him in there. And now you have Dylan Borrero, you have Petrovic. They're both coming with this raw talent, and they're just going to be developmental pieces. And you can just see what Borrero brings to the game with his pace, his quickness, his ability to see those passes that you were talking about. It's just been really impressive, and a nice breath of fresh air to get to see that and to have that sort of dynamic playmaking, especially for such a young player. Hopefully it's just all up and up for the Revolution and for Borrero.
Yeah, and I think we saw this year the Revs attack could have been stale at times. So what he provides for the Revolution attack, I think, is going to be huge for the team going forward. And I think he'll just get better and better. And he's not Buchanan yet, but I do think there's a potential that he could develop to be as good of a player as Buchanan. And if he does, the Revolution will probably sell him in the future for quite a nice profit. So he's definitely a guy to watch going forward. But I thought this was his first MLS start. I thought was very promising, and that assist to Gustavo Bou was really good. And he had several other plays, several other passes that were really impressive. Finished the game with 82.4% passing accuracy, one key pass, 29 touches. Maybe you'd like to see him a little bit more involved than that, but when he was involved, he did a lot with it. He did have 4 unsuccessful touches, 1 time dispossessed, earned a foul, had 1 successful dribble. But again, overall, I thought it was a really strong performance from him, and excited to see what he has to go, what he has to offer going forward. Still only 20 years old is important to remember when, a lot of these guys come to the Revolution through the super draft. They're already 22, 23. So he's a very, very young player with a very exciting career ahead of him.
Well, it's fun. You're going through his stat list here, and I'm looking at it as well. According to FootMob, his expected assists is 0.09. And so he took that 0.09 and 9% chance, and he turned it into that rainbow not a flick, but whatever it was kind of some sort of flick, but he turned that that amount of chance, and maybe that was less than 0.09 that one play. So it shows you how he can make something out of nothing. It was just really impressive, that one specific play, and then overall, yeah, I'm just really excited to see what he can do.
We talked about some good players. We talked about some underwhelming players. One guy I wanted to mention before we got to listener questions, although this was brought up in a listener question. Ronnie Smalls asked, any concerns with Carles Gil's body language / decision making? And I wanted to bring him up too, both for that and for the fact that he only had one key pass in this game. There was late in the game. He had I think it was like a 3-on-2 break where he had an opportunity to pass the ball back to Josie Altidore. And, Josie Altidore, if he was in good form, I don't know if he is or not because we haven't really seen him have many chances, but if he's in good finishing form, probably would have scored there. Instead, he dribbled too much and the keeper, I think, knocked it out and went out for a goal kick. I thought he had a pretty bad game by his standards. We're used to him seeing 6, 7, 8 key passes a game, one in this one. And then, when Ronnie Smalls asked about body language decision making, there was that play on a corner kick where Carles Gil, he thought he got fouled. I didn't think there was actually that much in that play. And he just stopped playing and then led to a counterattack. And DeJuan Jones got a yellow card on that play, committing a foul to kind of stop the counterattack. And then Carles Gil ran like 35 yards to go yell at the assistant referee. Twelman pointed that out. I don't know. For my captain, I want to see him play to the whistle. And keep going. And we've seen at times where he does that. So I don't know why he was so frustrated in this game that he just stopped playing and went to yell at the assistant referee. But I thought by his standards, this was a poor game from him. And I would like to see the Revolution captain play to the whistle and set the example and not just stop playing in the middle of an attacking play. All right. I don't know. Yeah. This game kind of disappointed me from Carles Gil.
Yeah, absolutely. And he was lacking composure on a lot of those moments where you're talking about approaching the referees. What are you going to gain out of that? They're not going to change our decisions because you're going to go yell at them. I mean, I guess maybe they're going to keep an eye out on something if you're calling something out, but still, you got to keep your composure. You can't get hot-headed. It's not going to do anything. And you said it's going to set really bad examples, and what the captain does is going to reflect on the rest of the team. Play to the whistle, keep your composure, and just keep your mouth shut unless there's actually some like horrible injustice going on. Like, just it's not worth the effort to bring it up. You're just going to put yourself as a negative remark towards the referee. And I just don't see any benefit whatsoever in that sort of behavior.
It also wasn't a particularly bad refereed game, I didn't think. I mean, there was nothing that really stood out to me as a terrible call, and the refs had a man advantage at that point. So, like, what are you complaining about? I don't know. That just frustrated me to see that. And, like I said, there's been times where Carles Gil's been fouled and he kept going and created a great play. And this one, he just stopped and let the counterattack happen, which is disappointing to see from him. And I just don't know. I don't know if we should be concerned by the fact that he was that frustrated in this game or what. And it's been a frustrating season in general overall, but they're on a 6-game unbeaten streak now for MLS play. So it's something to watch going forward. I'm not too concerned about it yet, but this was a game where I was a little bit disappointed in both Carles Gil's play and in his body language and decision making, as Ronnie Smalls asked.
Yeah, it's becoming a trend a bit. So something to keep an eye on.
It is the season, sure. Yeah, it is. So when things are going great, you don't see this from him. But when it's been a little bit of a frustrating season, we've seen it more. Even not this game so much, but in other games, like his post game comments when they had one snow game and they won, he wasn't complaining. They had one snow game and they lost, and he started going off the rails and swearing and saying you shouldn't play in that weather. It is, I don't know. He's such a talented player, and he's very capable of playing through physical challenges. That's the Carles Gil I like to watch, not the Carles Gil that stops in the middle of a play and goes and complains to the ref. So yeah, not concerned yet, but definitely something I'm keeping an eye on going forward. And we did get a decent amount of listener questions, so I did want to get into those. But before we do jump into listener questions, I want to take a minute to talk about the sponsor of this podcast, Galacco Kits. Galacco Kits is the go-to place to bring unique vintage jerseys to your home. The passion for the beautiful game doesn't have borders, and neither does the selection. If you head to GalaccoKits.com today, you can get 15% off your order using the code REVSRECAP. That's REVSRECAP at checkout for 15% off your order at GalaccoKits.com. Make sure you check that out. Lots of exciting stuff on there. Plenty of old classic Revolution jerseys. Never hard to find something on there worth buying. So check out Galacco Kits and use code REVSRECAP. With that, Chris, we got a lot of questions. I'll jump into them. Several people had multi-part questions.
Let's hear them.
Yeah, Porter on Twitter asked about a DP signing. Should the Revolution get a solid number 9 or 2 U22s? And just to clarify here, if the Revolution get a young DP, they can still sign 2 U22s. So they have the option of signing somebody that's over 23 as their DP and just doing that, or they have the option of signing somebody that's under 23 and doing that as well as 2 U22s. What do you think the Revs should do, Kris?
I think they should go for a big number 9, 1 DP. I like the idea of the 2 U22 players, but do we know what Borrero's contract situation is? Is he a young DP by chance, or would they have to discllose that? Because there was not a whole lot of information.
He's one of the U22 guys, so he takes the Revs U22 slot, which as long as Buksa is on the roster, they only have 1 U22 slot. But if they replace Buksa with a DP that's 23 or under, that'll be a young DP, and then they're allowed to sign 2 more U22. So it really opens up a lot more flexibility if they sign a young DP instead of a more senior DP.
Okay, so I mean, ideally you get another Adam Buksa, and I think we heard from Taylor Twellman that the Revs are kind of looking for that same type of player for when they brought Buksa in. He was a younger, more promising striker, and he developed into what I think is a quite almost world-class striker, I guess you could say. Maybe you don't want to go that far, that's fine, but regardless, I mean, he's scoring at an alarming rate for the Revolution in MLS, which is why now he's in France. I think, the Revs go for something similar to that. Ideally, if you're looking at a younger player, then that would be beneficial, I guess, right? I don't know. I'm kind of hemming and hawing over this, because going back and forth. Like, it would be great to aim for the younger age, but I think that needs to be a secondary thought. Don't try to find a younger player. If you get the player you want and he happens to fit in to the young DP portion, that's fantastic. That's an added bonus, but don't go looking for that. That's my opinion anyway.
So my thought is the ideal situation would be you get that young DP as your striker, your number 9, yep. And then you use those 2 U22 slots to get another winger, a guy like Borrero that can complement him on the other side, and then either a defensive midfielder or a center back as your second U22 spot. I think that would be your ideal situation. But I agree with you. If you have the opportunity to sign, a top class number 9 that's not going to be young DP, you do it. But ideally, if you can sign a young, very solid, striker that's already proven himself with a lot of goals in another league that's, happens to be 22 or under, that's your ideal situation. And they use those 2 U22 spots to address other needs, because I do think the Revolution have more needs than just striker right now. But overall, I agree with you. So we'll see what Bruce does. You mentioned Twellman said that, he's probably going to go out and sign another Buksa type instead of a Benteke type, that he's not going to probably sign a over 30 striker with a very proven track record in the top league. More likely a guy like Buksa they can develop and sell. I think that's probably true. And I think Kraft would probably like that better too, as I think Twellman alluded to. Although Bruce Arena shot down, it was asked after the game, Twellman said 100% chance you're going to sign a striker with that number 9 or with that DP spot. And Bruce Arena shot that down and said, how would he know that? So who knows? But, that'll be interesting to see. I think both of us agree that if you can get the opportunity to sign the right young DP and do a striker and keep that flexibility, go through U22 spots, that makes sense. But, the overarching goal should be to get a very solid striker.
Yep, 100%.
And then Porter, we touched on these guys a little bit, but Porter asked for our thoughts on Omar, Captoom, and T-Mac. Do you have anything else to add on those guys?
No, I think I expect a little bit more out of T-Mac. I think it was just a disappointing night for him tonight. And I think he has those. He has those bad off games, but then he has those games where he exceeds expectations. So it was just kind of what you get from him. I thought Arner was fine. I thought he's continuing his positive form for the 2022 season. So it was nice to see him get out there and just do well. He didn't do anything extraordinary, didn't change the game, but he didn't ruin it. He did exactly what he needed to. Nothing else really to add. I think we touched on Omar briefly. He didn't lose you the game today, so that's a positive. Otherwise, no, I don't have a whole lot of other opinions from this match.
Yeah, I agree. The one thought on Omar is there just one play that stuck in my head where there was a cross and he went for the header and missed it, and it didn't come up to bite the Revolution. But he's always one of those guys at 6'5" that when you see him go up for a header on a cross, you expect him to win it. And it's frustrating because he's not so good at other aspects of the game that at 6'5" you like to see him win those crosses. And it didn't cost the Revolution in this game. I thought he was overall by our very low standards for Omar at this point, I thought he was decent. Just by the fact he didn't cost Revolution the game. If he had gone 90 minutes, I don't know if there might have been, a different story. But and then we talked about Captoon. I don't think either of us were particularly impressed with his performance. T-Mac, like you said, I don't think he had a good game. I like T-Mac better. At least this season, when we've seen him kind of play more of that defensive midfield role next to Poster, and his role's been more defined. I think he's done a better job with that. So I think he was kind of asked to do, I don't know, maybe too much or maybe not as defined enough of a role as he should have with him. But yeah, I think overall we agree on those guys. Mm-hmm. And then Porter asked about Petrovic in goal and our thoughts on him. James Downing also asked our thoughts on Petrovic in goal. Charles Maddox asked about our thoughts on Petrovic in goal. So in general, I think we need to give our thoughts on Petrovic in goal.
Yeah, let's do that. I'm pleasantly surprised. I think I expected it to be a good signing, given the fact that Bruce Arena, former goalkeeper, and Kevin Hitchcock, who seems to have an eye for goalkeepers, are on the coaching staff. I expected them to make a good signing there. I think Petrovic seems to be that. He looks pretty promising, still young. I know Bruce didn't necessarily or maybe he thought he could have done better with that Johnny Russell goal, but don't take away anything from Johnny Russell on that. That was just a fantastic bender from him, and don't put any blame on Petrovic. That's not his fault that went in. Otherwise, I thought he had a solid game. He showed really good hands, showed good positioning, and he showed that when he sees his defense getting out of sorts, he's gonna talk to them. I don't know if you caught this as well, but there was a couple of moments in the match. I don't remember the specific the context of the plays, but Kansas City kind of went through the defense or through the midfield, and plays ended up resulting in nothing. But you could see Petrovic off the side of the screen coming up and starting to yell at some of the midfielders for not tracking the runners and not staying with their players, not being in the right position, whatever it was that he was saying. I'm not really sure, but you could see him being vocal about it. And that's something that you want to see in a keeper. You want a leader. You want someone that's not afraid to instruct the other players, the field players on where they need to be or what they're doing wrong. Cause the goalkeeper sees it all from that position. So it was nice to see that. He's very promising. And those are my thoughts on Georgi Petrovic.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I thought Bruce Arena's comments were interesting because he did say that he thought he was good the entire game. But I thought it was interesting that Bruce did say that, as he gets a little bit more experience and a little bit better technically, he's probably going to make the save on that free kick. Because I thought it was a really good free kick. And it was about as close to the box as you can get without being a penalty kick. And, he curled that right into the upper corner. So, maybe if Petrovic was positioned more, I don't know. I think... I don't really think
he could have been positioned more centrally, right? Because he was positioned a bit to the right, expecting the wall having a shot. Yeah, exactly. And maybe the wall's to blame because the wall didn't.
Yeah, I was just surprised that was the way that Bruce said that, because maybe he could have saved it, but I thought it was a really good free kick, and I thought Petrovic didn't have that much to do in this game, we should say, but he did have at least one really good save that I can remember, and he did what he was asked to do very, very well. But we should note that Kansas City's offense wasn't particularly strong in this one, so it wasn't like he was peppered with shots. But I thought he had a good game, and I thought everything we've seen from him is very promising. So I'm excited to see what he does when he takes over for Matt Turner full time.
Same here, and you saw him on some set pieces, on some corner kicks as well. He came right out and commanded his spot. He would just handily take the crosses out of the air before it got to any of the attackers. He's showing his size, his presence, and it's just nice to see from such a young guy to have enough confidence to be doing that, because you need to have that sort of confidence as the keeper. It's just nothing that you can't. If you're going to be shaky or have no confidence at all, you're going to end up looking. I don't want to throw Cody Cropper under the bus, but you're going to look like Cody Cropper out there, where he didn't have the confidence. He might have had a lot of skill, but he didn't have the confidence when he was in net, and it showed. Georgi Petrovic seems to be the complete opposite of that. So hopefully it keeps going. I'm more than happy to keep rooting for Petrovic and jump on the Petrovic train.
And the last question from Porter was just about the Lletget absence. I had no knowledge or inkling that he was going to miss this game. Did you? And how surprised were you? I mean, again, like I said earlier, I guess we shouldn't be surprised anymore. But how surprised were you to not see him as part of the game day roster?
Well, at first I was like, oh, maybe he's with the national team, and I missed that because I'll be honest, I missed this whole entire national team window. So I was like, I didn't hear about a call up for him. Maybe I missed it. So I reached out to you guys, and I was like, did you get the call up? And you're like, no, well, I don't know what's going on. And so yeah, I was pretty surprised at that point. I figured that you guys knew something I didn't, and the fact that nobody really knew was it was surprising, but also expected. At this point, with the way that the Revs comp seems to handle a lot of their injury reporting, but I just want to know where he is. What's going on with him? Is it something to worry about? At the same time, I mean, he's getting 20 touches per 90, so maybe it's a pointless thing to worry about at this point. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and since you mentioned the national team, I just want to quickly touch on that because Leggett was really good for the national team last year, and he's just completely fallen off the radar. I think his play for the Revolution, I think he's got zero shot of making the World Cup at this point. Going into the season, I thought, if he had a good year for the Revs, that he could have made the World Cup roster. But I think he's just been, not that he's had a terrible year, but he's, hasn't had anywhere near good enough of the year that he needed to have to make the World Cup roster or even be in consideration. And it's, disappointing for him that's happened. But I really think that because he hasn't had a great start to the year, any chance he had of making the World Cup is out the window. And despite the fact that he was the U.S.'s leader in appearances last year, and I think tied for the U.S. lead in goals last year too. So disappointing for him. But I think any chance he had of making the World Cup is gone.
It's like Greg has been reading Twitter or something because the way that everyone reacts when they see him on the roster. But it is surprising. I don't know what happened to his call-ups. It was a last window first, and then this one all of a sudden, and now, yeah, you're starting to wonder what that means for his future with the national team.
I do just want to take a moment to laugh at all the people that said Bruce Arena was going to revive Josie Altidore's career to the point where he made the World Cup roster. I think there were some people that wrote for MLSsoccer.com that suggested that, and that went as far as some people even went as far as to say that Bruce Arena's going to do such a good job with Altidore, Omar Gonzalez, and Leggett that all three of them are going to make the World Cup roster, and that is definitely not panned out.
Well, in all fairness, let's wait for Josie to be fit. Okay, we don't know what he's capable of until he's healthy.
Yeah, and the comments now that we knew Josie wasn't going to be fit until June or July. Like, come on. He was not injured going into the offseason. He was playing for Toronto. I still don't understand why it took until. I mean, he's still not fit. I don't know. We've talked about it before. I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But I when that first comment came out in the press release where Bruce Arena made some comment that he's got need a couple months to get fit. I'm like, preseason's only like a month and a half. Other guys get fit in that time. Why does he need this much time to get fit? I don't know.
It boggles my mind. I feel like I could get fit in that time, and there's a reason I do audio podcasting because I am not fit anymore. Man.
Yeah, we've spent enough time on the Josie fitness though, so we'll save that. I'll save that for another time. But but yeah, I think we're both on the same page there. Like, what the heck is going on? But
I think it's more the fitness. There's no way he can't be fit. Like, how is he just going home and eating a bag of Funyuns every night? Like, and not working out during the day or something? Is he waiting to get fit? Or is there something else going on? I think
he's 32 years old and has had a lot of injuries in his career, and he's never going to be that player that we saw 4 or 5 years ago. And people just need to accept that.
I think that's fine. But I'm 36 years old, and I can go run for at least 45 minutes, and I haven't been training.
Yeah, I think that there's expectations over Josie Altidore based on his contract, the length of his contract. The fact that he was brought in, as some saw as, Buksa's replacement, given everyone knew Buksa was probably going to be gone in the summer, that were just unrealistic given Josie's injury history and given Josie's age. And I don't know if we're ever going to see the Josie that has the impact, even kind of half the impact that maybe you wanted to see from him, given if you thought he was Buksa's replacement, but. We actually have some more Josie questions, but I'll get back to those. Traeger Girardi asks, after seeing John Bell play today, I understand why Omar Gonzalez is ahead of him in the depth chart. Do you agree?
Yes. I don't want to say it. Yeah, I do though. Like, I think John Bell still has a lot of learning to do. He doesn't have the experience. Like, that's the word that we've been saying all season long. And that's what I was so high on when the Omar signing was made. I was unhappy with it at first and trying to spin it positively so that I could just not be so grumpy. And I really thought that the experience was going to pay off. And maybe once Omar gets back into a regular routine of playing often, maybe, we've seen it now in the last 2 games. He's actually looked good. That one goal that was really bad, was it 2 weeks ago now, before the international break? That wasn't because of his defending. So defensively, I think he's looked good in the last 2 matches that we've seen him. And if he can keep it up and using that experience, and then I guess I understand why he's ahead of John Bell. I still would like to see John Bell get some more minutes because I think he does need that E-word again experience. Just need to get him out there and get that MLS minutes under him, because I think John Bell has the potential to become a regular MLS starter. It's just a matter of whether or not he can put it all together.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that people need to remember too that 2 years ago, John Bell was a left back. He was converted to center back. He hasn't been playing center back very long. So, you look at it, he's 24 years old. If he was in Europe, he'd be a finished product at that point. He's not a finished product. He needs a lot more experience. And, I'm still very down on Omar Gonzalez. I don't want to see Omar Gonzalez getting a lot of minutes for the Revs. Is Omar Gonzalez better than John Bell right now? Probably. But John Bell has a lot of room to improve. So I think that I would rather see John Bell getting those minutes and getting better and getting the experience than seeing Omar Gonzalez. But that's just my thought. I mean, I get why if you want to go with the experienced guy that, you might put Omar Gonzalez over John Bell right now, but I think John Bell still has a lot of room to get better.
I do too. I think everyone thinks we just need Henry Kessler to be healthy and be out there. Still kind of wondering about Henry Kessler being so young and having all these injuries, but I definitely want to see HK out there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think I still would like to see the Revolution sign another experienced center back during this window if they can, because I'm not happy with any of the options after Henry Kessler, and I'm not happy with how injured Henry Kessler is, as you said.
I think the Revs need a Jaleel Anibaba type player, maybe even Antonio De La Mea level, someone that you can come in and count on for 30 minutes in a pinch.
And Randy LH asks, if we don't bring in another striker, how far can we get on just Gustavo Bou and Josie Altidore?
That's a loaded question, but I still think this team is capable of doing MLS Cup if they can put the pieces together. The way I said it in my takeaway, they have a lot of pieces. It just feels like it's kind of mixed up right now. Things aren't necessarily clicking, but if it is clicking, I think this team is very dangerous. They're creating a ton of chances, and even if they don't have any other additions, they're still creating the chances. It's just a matter of making those chances find the strikers in the right spot, making sure that when your strikers are taking your shot, when your Gustavo Bou is taking their shots, it's going on frame. You still have very dangerous fullbacks to be able to bomb down the wing and put in great crosses. I think DeJuan Jones and Brennan Bai, 2 of the best in MLS. So I think there's still a lot of upside for this team, even just the way it is right now with no additions whatsoever. I don't expect MLS Cup, but I would say they're definitely capable of that sort of level. But they need to put it all together. That's just going to be it. Can they do it? Are they able to get the chemistry down where they're able to play together so fluidly? I don't know. That's the big question mark for me right now. And it's thankfully there's still several months to figure that out. But they need to make sure they're in playoff position first.
Yeah, the big question mark to me is health. I don't think this is a particularly deep team anymore, given the guys that they lost. But I think the starting lineup, when everyone's healthy, is still a very strong team. But you need Henry Kessler to stay healthy. You need Gustavo Bou to stay healthy. You need Carles Gil to stay healthy. And, historically, those are all guys that have had a lot of injuries. So that's asking a lot. So I think if they don't sign another striker, there is a very big reliance on Gustavo Bou staying healthy, and that's a tough thing to rely on. So if he stays healthy, I think they're a team that could be, right in the middle of the pack of the Eastern Conference playoff teams, and who knows what can happen in the playoffs. But realistically, I think they're going to be a team that's one of the lower seeds in the playoffs, unless they add more depth or add another striker, because I just don't see all those guys that they need to stay healthy to staying healthy all season. They haven't so far. I mean, Carles Gil has, but otherwise they haven't. And, knock on wood, Carles Gil has not been a guy that's managed to stay healthy for a full season very often with the Revolution.
Well, a real quick point I wanted to add too, you were talking about depth. And, we've already mentioned it once that Taylor Twellman has kind of been hinting that the Revs are looking at that number 9, and Bruce is kind of like downplaying it. Who knows what's going on with that as far as that, if that's going to be the DP or not. But Taylor Twellman just tweeted out right now in response to one of his other tweets about the Revs signing a forward, saying, who's to say that they don't go get a center back or midfielder as well. So maybe Taylor knows something. Maybe there's already something in the works where the Revs are looking at center back right now. If not, then I am just feeding the fodder and, go blame Taylor Twellman, not me.
Right. James Downing asks, would you agree that Borrero is indeed the Tajon Buchanan, or indeed the Tajon replacement? John Pilkington also asks, do you like what you see from Borrero so far? And Charles Maddox also asked about Borrero. I think I talked about Borrero for a while. Anything else to add there? And do you think he is indeed the Tajon replacement?
I mean, I guess positionally and dynamically, yeah. I think that's going to be the short answer. We kind of went over it a bit at the beginning. But overall, if you want a short answer, I'd say yes.
Yeah, I think he is. I mean, like we said, I think there's room for improvement. I don't think he's Tajon's level yet, but I definitely think he's the replacement. Mm-hmm. James also asked thoughts on the buy to Europe rumors. I don't know if you saw those, but there was a rumor that he might go to Fulham, and then I think there was a French team too in the mix.
I did see him. I don't know how much I believe them. However, I think that Brandon Bai is a hot commodity. I mean, a right back that's able to cross as well as Brandon Bai has been doing lately, as much as he's improved, and he's shown rapid improvement, and growth like that, it only proves that, it doesn't necessarily prove, but it kind of hints that it could just keep going and keep getting better. And if he could do that, I can absolutely see him playing over in Europe. I don't necessarily buy into the rumors that I'm hearing right now, but who knows? There's a lot of rumors flying around. So
yeah, I'm not buying it. I like Brandon Bai. I think he's done a great job for the Revolution. He's not Premier League quality. He's not going to jump up to the Premier League. There's questions about what the change in work permit rules, whether he could get a work permit. I think he'd have a tough time getting a work permit with 0 caps. I think he's about 15th on the U.S. men's national team right back depth chart. I think he's a great MLS right back, and maybe he could go to Europe in the future. If he does, it's not going to be the Premier League. It's not going to be Premier League. It's not going to be La Liga. It's not going to be the Bundesliga.
It's not going to be a top 5 yet.
Yeah. So the Fulham rumor I don't buy into at all, and I think if that's who Fulham's looking for as they go up to the Premier League and get promoted, they're going to have a rough season in the Premier League. No offense to Brandon Bai, who I think is a really good player for the Revolution. I just think that's a huge leap, and not very many MLS players make that leap. And Brandon Bai, as a guy that's not even close to the U.S. men's national team picture, does not seem to me like he's going to be that guy that makes the leap to the Premier League. So I don't put any faith into the Fulham rumor, but
right. And you look at DeAndre Yedlin too. I mean, he just came back, so and I think that he's been underwhelming, I guess, since he's been back with Miami. But that's I don't know. I see that's just a hard time for the Revolution to even let him go, because what's the backup plan there? The Revolution are already in trouble, so I don't buy any of those rumors.
Well, the other thing too is he's not that young, right? You talk about DeAndre Yedlin coming back, mm-hmm. and how many years he played in Europe, and DeAndre Yedlin's only 2 years older than Brandon Bai. He's actually, I think he's only 2 years older than Brandon Bai. So it's not like he's a 26-year-old player, and when you're a Premier League team that's looking at a guy that's not ready for the Premier League yet but might develop into that, you're not looking at a 26-year-old. Right. So again, this is not meant to brash on Brandon Bai, because I think the Revolution are in a very good position with him as a right back. I just, I think things are getting a little crazy because there's so many good Revs players that are going to Europe, and DeJuan Jones strikes me as a guy that could go to Europe. Brandon Bai, I don't know. Could he go to Europe? Yes, but it's not going to be the Premier League. But maybe I'll be proven wrong, but I can't see it. Teal Forever, he asks, is it time to give up on the Josie Altidore project?
Has it begun? I don't know. I give Josie the season. I mean, before I have any serious opinions, I mean, I'm going to make the jokes all year long as I can, as long as he's allowing me to. But no, I think overall, before I really make any definitive decisions, I think we knew what we were getting with Josie. We're getting an older player with an injury history that is a shell of what he used to be, but maybe still has the ability to pull a rabbit out of a hat every once in a while. I don't necessarily think that he's going to be a long-term solution for the Revs' main striker. I think, that's Gustavo Bou that's going to be pulling that load unless the Revolution make a signing, where I think it's going to be similar to tonight where you see Altidore come on late. And that's where the crosses are going to really start coming in because Josie's good in the air. And he's good at finishing. It's just a matter of getting into position and I don't know. I mean, I've gone on this rant enough times now where I don't know if it bears repeating, but I'm going to wait till the end of the year before I give my final judgment, I think, on Josie, or maybe, give it till mid-September.
I don't think we have the luxury of giving up on the Josie Altidore project, unfortunately.
No, we don't.
Especially with Adam Buksa gone now officially. So, it's not time to give up on it. He's got a long leash. They've committed a lot towards him both this year and the next 2 years. And even if you want to talk about, I think it's way too soon to talk about it, but even if you want to start talking about, who is your offseason buyout, I think there's a couple of candidates ahead of Josie right now, and you only get one of them. So, it's far too soon to give up on the Josie Altidore project. Well, I would say both of us have been very underwhelmed with his fitness and kind of shocked by how long it's taking him to get fit. You can't give up on him yet. Right. And then Teal also had a comment. He really liked the spark that Arnour and Ema gave off the bench. Let's keep doing that. I liked it too. My only comment is I thought Ema should have come on sooner than he did. But I think both of us were pleased with the spark they brought, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And definitely sooner. 73rd minute is when he came in. But I guess quick side note that this brings me to is that Bruce used all 5 subs tonight, which is a rare occurrence. So applaud Bruce. Shout out Bruce. Good job. I think one of them was due to injury because that's when Boateng came on for Borrero. But that's
two of them were due to injury because Bell came on for Gonzalez, who apparently had concussion symptoms. So he made 5 subs, but 2 of them were forced. But yeah, it's still all the same. Good to see all 5 subs. And then last question from Teal Forever was Omar out of position on the break that set up the goal? I don't know that either of us. We were both talking before the podcast. I don't remember seeing that, and unfortunately, neither of us got a chance to go back and look at it. So I can't confirm or deny that Omar might have been out of position on that break. Bruce didn't even think it was it is plausible. Bruce didn't even think it was a foul by the Revs. He thought that the Revs were fouled by the player in his post-game comments. So again, I didn't get I wish I had kind of gone back and looked at the foul in the play to see if Omar was there and whether or not the Revs were actually fouled instead of the opposite. But I guess a lot of questions on that play that unfortunately we didn't get the chance to go back and look at.
Yep, I don't have much to add to that. Yeah, I think you covered it. That's plausible is the only thing I'll say because it is Omar, but I think he played well. So I'll give him the credit and the benefit of the doubt for tonight, and I'll say no. And if I'm wrong, you can tweet me.
96.1% passing accuracy for Omar Gonzalez in this one, so I'm going to give him some credit for that because his passing has been a problem at times this season. One last question we got. John Pilkington wanted to know, what would you prioritize for signings? Again, I think we touched on this a little bit with the question about DP and U22s earlier, but Chris, what would you prioritize for signings this summer?
It's so tough because I think they need a lot of help in the midfield, but there's so much crowded. It's so crowded in the midfield right now. And I think with Dylan Borrero addition and Sebastian Lletget still kind of working his way into the offense, I still think maybe that's a bit wait and see. So for me, I think you need a new number 9. You need an actual striker. A lot of chances coming in, not enough going in the net. So I think that's where I prioritize. The defense it's going to be leaky, I guess. I don't think one player is going to necessarily solve that. If any signings you make are probably going to be a depth piece anyway. So I'm prioritizing getting a number 9.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think number 9 has to be the priority. At the same time, I think the Revolution could use another winger option. I think they're still very limited in their options there.
Tommy McNamara is not good for you?
Yeah, I don't like seeing Tommy McNamara on the wing. I don't like seeing Lletget on the wing. I think he's better in the center. So it's really just Borrero and Boateng for me that are actually the true wingers, and I'd like to see them add another option there. I'd like to see them add another defensive midfielder. I think when Polster's out or when they want to play 2 defensive midfielders, they're kind of limited there. I don't think Maciel has maybe he hasn't had much of a chance this season, but I think the fact that he hasn't had that much of a chance this season shows that maybe he's not ready in Bruce's mind. So I'd like to see another option there. And like I said earlier, I'd still like to see another veteran center back, like you mentioned, Andy Baba or even De La Mea kind of caliber guy to be an option when, unfortunately, when Henry Kessler is inevitably not healthy, because it's happened too often. And again, Andrew Farrell too, now at 30, he's been an Iron Man for the Revolution, but at some point, again, knock on wood, you can't count on him playing every single game over a busy season. So I would like to see not necessarily more numbers at center back, but better depth at center back going forward. So those are the ones that I see as kind of the needs. And I think we got through all the questions. I don't know if you had anything to add there, Chris, or if you had any final thoughts.
Nope. If you want anything, I'm still riding the Tristan Blackman train. I think that's the Revs target. So I'm going to just keep hanging my hat on that until it doesn't happen. Otherwise, that's it for me.
And I know you're on a bit of a social media hiatus, but where can people follow you on social media?
I am. I'm a bit more back now. I haven't downloaded Twitter back on my phone yet. So we'll see if that happens. I think that might change in the next coming days because I need to do a Spaces event soon. But anyway, off that tangent, find me over on Twitter at Kris Valukis. It's the best place to reach out. And I love chatting Revs. So let's talk.
And you can follow me at Sean L. Donahue on Twitter. And, of course, follow the podcast on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Easy to find, just at Revolution Recap. Please rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, wherever else you listen to podcasts. And be sure to check out our friends at the Bent Musket for all their New England Revolution coverage. Thanks again for listening, and we will be back. Well, I don't know if we're going to do a Spaces Wednesday. Chris, do you know if we're doing one?
I think we are. I think it's official. It's 99% official. We haven't scheduled it yet, but we've been talking about it.
Well, one way or another, follow us on Twitter. We'll let you know. And we'll be back next weekend as well with the podcast after that game. So, again, thanks again for everyone for listening.